Religious people, despite believing in a God that causes so much suffering, still have the audacity to lecture other people on the subject of morality.
What's right and what's wrong doesn't change. But I have yet to hear an atheist or a secularist answer this basic question: what is good? And how do you know?
I don't know which I hate more, the unchanging morality of religion or the moral relativism that so many secular people base their lives around.
And as long as someone detaches God from goodness, all they really have is an imitation of goodness, and still they get it wrong.
Religious people have been confidently preaching for thousands of years that their way of living is morally superior.
At the Social Smackdown, Cal Kane is going to try and fail to prove me wrong.
On the Social Smackdown, I'm going to put an end to this nonsense.
God is behind me. Who's in your corner? Greetings, fans and friends and listeners. This is the Catholic Adventurer. What you're about to listen to is our live Socials Smackdown, which we recorded last week. These aren't ordinarily included in our catalog on iTunes and Spotify and wherever. If you'd like to catch these Social Smackdowns when they happen, I encourage you to follow us on social media at The Dialogue FM, on X, YouTube, and Facebook, at The Dialogue FM, to catch these Social Smackdowns. They're also found on our website, but they're not usually included in this catalog. Follow us on social media at The Dialogue FM. See you there. Cal, I have a little surprise in store for you.
Okay, right. Let's see it.
This is going to be a good one. Are you ready to go back to the old school?
I think I am. I'm nervous.
Welcome to The Dialogue. I am the Catholic Adventurer.
And I am Cal Kane. Pleasure to be with you all again.
This is a podcast where a Catholic and an atheist square off in friendly dialogue, but today it's all hard debate. This is The Dialogue Social Smackdown, and we are very happy that you're joining us, catching us live on X, YouTube, and on El Book de Face, where free speech never lived, but it's making a cameo today. How you doing, Cal?
I'm doing great. I'm doing even better after hearing that opening riff again.
Yeah,
oh,
man.
My Lord.
Takes you way back, man. Way back.
Way back.
Yes.
Way back.
Yes,
It may as well have been a different timeline. Oh,
I'm
my
telling
goodness.
you, it practically is. Today, we're going to be debating the question of morality. Where does an atheist's morality come from? What is the Catholic/Christian position? And we're going to be debating it hard. This is a Social Smackdown. Ain't no friends up in here. That's what they say. And all the rest of them, they can just go and play. So, Cal, are you ready to do this?
Let's go. I've been ready for days.
Yeah, man, same here. I'm hot on it. We're also going to be taking your live calls today, folks. And just stand by for the prompt. I'll send you the phone number and all of that stuff. Hello to those of you catching me on my personal Twitter feed at @ForTheQueenBVM. I am mirroring this broadcast to a Twitter Spaces over on my channel or on my feed. I won't be doing that for long. Now, if you want to chat, ladies and gentlemen, just a little bit of instruction. If you want to chat, I think you're going to have to. You definitely cannot do that on X. X disabled that feature for anybody but, paid subscribers. So if you want to chat.
That's so sucky.
It's so stupid. If you want to chat, you're going to have to come over to Facebook or to YouTube. The channel's names are, the channel name is The Dialogue FM, at The Dialogue FM across social media. So if you want to chat, you're going to have to go to Facebook, where Cal is manning the Facebook, or you're going to have to come to YouTube, and you'll find me there. I can't really do much chatting with you, but, I'm going to be looking over at it just to monitor things to make sure everything is copacetic. If you have a question, throw it in there, or you can get your fingers and thumbs ready and give us a call. We're going to be taking a call-in session in a little while. All right, Cal, enough. let's get down to the nitty gritty. I was going to say, let's commence.
You want to go first?
I wasn't sure if is it commence with the nitty gritty or dispense with the nitty gritty. You know, I'm all a fluster. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
I think both. I think in this context, let's let the execution begin.
I like that. Let's let the execution begin. I like that very much. Okay. So the way this started was first someone brought a question to you over our first Twitter Spaces session.
Yes, right.
And then there was some debating on the Dialogue's Twitter channel at the Dialogue FM on Twitter. And we decided we had to do a show about this. Now, the down and dirty question is, you're very perplexing because you believe in objective morality, do you not?
Yes, I do.
And this is actually a question I don't know the answer to. Do you believe in objective truth as well? It's kind of a side question. But
I do. There's some caveats.
Okay.
But I do believe in objective truth, yes. I think things can be known objectively, yes.
Okay, so how, and again, this is a question I don't quite know the answer to. How do you square believing in objective morality, but also, well, what are your views on morality? Where does morality come from? Let's start there.
Okay, that's a good place. It's a good place to start. So fundamentally, I think before you can even entertain questions of right and wrong, good and evil, immoral, moral, just, unjust, however you want to call them, you have to bring in consciousness. You have to bring in conscious creatures, possibly machines, but we'll just go conscious creatures.
Okay.
There has to be something that cares about its existence before you can actually start to have these questions. You can actually start to ask questions and think in moral terms. Imagine a universe where there is just imagine the early days of the universe just after the Big Bang went off.
Mm-hmm.
You can observe that universe, and you can talk about things like you can talk about chemistry, you can talk about thermodynamics, you can talk about the stars, you can talk about space, you can even talk about time, you can talk about a lot of fundamental things, but with nothing there to care about its existence and to be made better or worse, there's no room for morality. Morality springs up when we have something that's actually aware of its own existence, because trees, rocks, dead space does not do any of those things. So that's the first point. The second point,
make it snappy.
The second point is that our conscious experience is a rich tapestry. It can be good in a lot of different ways, and it can be terrible in a lot of different ways. So I think morality comes from the fact that we're conscious biological creatures. To not look at consciousness for at least guidance on how to begin having this conversation doesn't make any sense to me. So that's my position, done in a very snappy way. There's more to it than that, which we'll get into.
Well, I hope so, because I don't understand much of what you said. So how do you know what's moral and what's immoral, what's right or what's wrong, based on the things that you just said?
By looking, what does a rock think of morality?
Well, a rock can't think, and it has no will. It can't act. So a rock,
it can't do. Okay, it can't do anything. Okay, so then let's say we have a very, very basic organism that just has a kind of not really too keen on that. Likes heat or it doesn't like heat, and it just goes from one state to another. That's the birth of morality right there, because there is something there that could potentially say, could you bring the temperature down a little bit, or could you just move that over there a little bit? I would just be much better over here.
But that's not a moral act. That's not a moral act. Can you raise the temperature and move the furniture? It sounds to me what you're saying is that morality is independent of how conscious creatures feel. Yes, feelings don't determine what's moral. Morality
that blows my that really blows my mind, because that means you could actually have a universe where things suffer as much as they can for as long as they can, and as long as there's the ever looming shadow of a mostly silent deity, everything's fine. But everyone could just silent. Everyone could just be in a burning lake of fire. Isn't that right? But
wait a second. So the universe doesn't suffer. Okay, and also, since you mentioned the word suffer, do you think the question or measurement of suffering has anything to do with whether or not an act is moral, based on how much suffering it does or does not cause?
That's part of it. Yeah. That is part of it. It's not just about how we are experiencing consciousness. It's about future conscious states. It's about what my decisions will do and affect the people around me, and it will affect me, the people around me now, and also in the future. It's all about things that are aware of themselves, because how I treat a rock, how I treat something that's not conscious doesn't matter. That when you bring consciousness in, there's something that can actually, you could say that thing can either flourish or not flourish.
So is it immoral to cut down a healthy tree for sport?
Is it moral to cut down a healthy tree for sport?
Yeah.
Give me a moment.
Okay.
Give me a moment.
I mean, you don't have to go with it.
It's an interesting. No. Just
the reason I present it is because the tree has no consciousness. Okay, so
trees provide us with oxygen.
Right, but it has no consciousness. It can't suffer.
So if we cut all the trees down, so if I was to cut all the trees down, we would have no oxygen and we would all die.
Well, we're not talking about cutting all the trees down. I mean, I believe it's immoral. I believe it's immoral to cut down a tree that's healthy just for the hell of it. Okay, and I believe it's immoral because it negates a good. It negates a good and there is no greater good outcome. So from the perspective of a theist, from my perspective as a Catholic, okay, morality is objectively ordered toward the good, and it is rooted in something objective. Because if morality moves, if it's subjective, if it's ever changing, sometimes moral things develop as we understand them better, but they don't change. If morality changes, then what's moral today becomes evil tomorrow. Or more likely, what's evil today becomes moral tomorrow, which is how things are going. Well, there are some exceptions, like slavery, for instance.
You're doing that typical thing that theists do, where they go, morality doesn't change, but it can be modulated. It can be put over here. It can be developed. Blah blah blah.
Development and modulation are not the same things.
I would argue in this case, your morality developing, or people learning how to treat each other better, how to be happier, whatever you want to, whatever synonym you want to use there. It sounds like you're just hitting me with a word salad, which is exactly what you were doing on Twitter.
No, word salad. Word salad is how you opened the argument, trying to avoid the issue. That was word salad. What I'm presenting is a word T-bone steak.
What I'm giving you is an actual objective measure and an objective starting point where we can actually start to talk about right and wrong, good and evil, moral and immoral.
But I think, but it's not really objective, because what it sounds like is it's measured by people's suffering. And we can do harm to people. Look, there are drug addicts who are suffering, but they're loving it. So they're not actually suffering.
Well, I mean, all you've said there is that people can be wrong about things.
What I'm saying is a person's capacity for interacting and parsing reality can become diminished or even negated. Okay, to the extent that someone's suffering may be their pleasure, right? But the thing that's causing their suffering could still be immoral, even if if they interpret it as something pleasurable. You understand? So if beating my wife, if beating my wife is immoral, then it's immoral, right? Her being okay with it doesn't turn it into something moral. It's still immoral. So I guess what
is the conscious state of someone that's being? What is the conscious state of someone that's having pain inflicted to them?
I don't think it makes it. I don't think it makes a difference to the argument.
It's all of the different. It's the only thing we could possibly care about. We couldn't possibly care about anything else other than what we're aware of at any particular moment. What else is there?
Go ahead and make your argument. I just have to tweet something real quick.
Well, I mean, again, again, if we go back to my original point, you can't make statements of right or wrong without something being affected by the environment that it's in. It's not possible.
I still feel like you're avoiding the issue. So you believe that morality is objective, but it's objectively rooted in suffering? That's what determines something that's moral or not?
No. Suffering, pleasure, the absence of suffering and then feeling better.
See,
this is a crazy thing that religious people do, where they go, right, okay, so what you're talking about, these crazy secularists. They're talking about how people feel. They're talking about their lived experience. They're talking about the difference between love and death. They're talking about all those things. Yeah, who cares about any of that? I've got this old dusty book.
No, you don't need an old dusty book to have common sense, okay? Because even the pagans, the ancient pagans who had no dusty book, some of them based their moral code on what they observed in nature. That's objective. It's limited. It's severely limited because nature is nature, and nature can't act as human beings can act, right? With our will, our desire, the complexity of our minds. But it's objective, okay? So
what's objective?
If you have a moral code rooted in natural law, in what you observe in nature, what you observe in the natures of things, then you have a moral code that's limited, but it's at least objective. It's rooted in something that doesn't move, that doesn't change.
Consciousness is the most fundamental thing.
But consciousness is not objective because someone's consciousness can be disabled.
An illusionist. Amazing.
No, someone's consciousness can be disabled. Someone can be in a vegetative state, or someone can be, intellectually disabled, mentally disabled, either through illness or just, through defect and that sort of thing. So how someone, go ahead.
But they're still conscious.
I understand that, but an act committed against them, even if they aren't aware that it's immoral because of their diminished consciousness, it's still immoral. What I'm saying is we're going ring around the rosy a little bit, I think. What I'm trying to say is that suffering and pleasure are not measurements. First of all, they're not measurements of morality. And secondly, they're really not objective. So as it turns out, it seems you don't believe in objective morality. You only think that you do.
So you don't think that someone that's you don't think biological states and therefore conscious states and mental states are an objective thing. You think I'm making it up.
I don't believe they're objective because I believe there can be differences between them. Okay, so your conscious state could be different from mine. Your capacity or your facility for receiving and parsing and understanding reality could become diminished.
And it could also become better.
I don't know if it can become better. Maybe your understanding of it can become better. But listen, if you're in a vegetative state, you cannot parse reality as well as I can.
Well, first thing, your argument's making me wish I was in a vegetative state. But second of all, we are not all in vegetative states. You're committing that what you're doing is a straw man. The vast majority of people are conscious, and their conscious experience can be intrinsically because we don't have to be taught that burning your hand is terrible and your mother's cooking is great. We can put words like good and bad on them, but we're talking about actual physical reality, and right. we are part of that. We are part of that physical reality. So I knew this was going to happen. It's kind of like people. It's the damage that religion does to otherwise healthy people.
No,
it absolutely is.
Ridiculous.
It absolutely
ridiculous. Because you're wrapping up your awful argument in objectivity, and there's nothing objective about it. You're saying it's objective.
There's nothing objective about suffering.
You're saying
nothing.
No. Because a person's capacity to understand suffering or to perceive something as sufferable has variances, and sometimes it can be turned off. You understand? So if someone's in a vegetative state, right, and I feel like practicing karate chops on them, that's still immoral, even if they're not even aware that it's happening.
Yeah, but there's also the dignity of your mindset looking at something and going, let me just karate chop it. That says a lot about you. And then also
True,
you've got to remember
fair.
that you've got to remember that we're social creatures. So if I was in the room and came in and saw you doing that, that affects me consciously. That's why I care about it.
Okay, but let me ask you this. If you don't know that it's immoral, is it still immoral, what you observe me doing? Because, I mean, I'll give you a second to think it through, but I'll look in the time that it takes me to add to this right now. There are people who observe wrongdoing all the time, and they don't perceive it as wrongdoing at all. In fact, some of them, they think it's giddy. I remember when I was in the Marine Corps, there were people who thought it would be fun to beat up animals and hack animals to pieces. And everybody thought that was fun. I thought that was horrible. You know, so when I was in a position to put a stop to it, I put a stop to it. But
why though?
Why what?
Why? Why did you think that was horrible? What reason did you have?
Because they're killing an animal for sport. Not even for sport, just for kicks. If they were killing an animal to eat it because they needed to eat it, that would be different. Because then the act culminates to a greater good.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? In this case, though, the act, not only did it not culminate to a greater good, but it negated a good, the life of the animal. It negated a good without culminating to a higher good.
So now imagine the lights are on, but no one's home in terms of conscious experience for you and the animal and everyone doing that.
It doesn't make a difference. It's still immoral.
It makes all of the difference in the world. All of the difference.
And how do you figure?
Well, make a moral judgment on the vacuum of space.
There is no moral judgment on the vacuum of space.
Right.
Because there can be no acts perpetrated against it. There's no moral question. There's no moral question applying to the vacuum of space.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad we agree on something.
It happens.
You can't every now and then. Okay, cool. So for you then, when does anything actually start mattering?
In terms of morality?
If it's not the vacuum of space, yes, that's what we're here to talk about.
Okay, when do things start mattering? So a moral act is an act that's oriented toward the good. A good is positive, life-giving, life-sustaining, and yes, life-giving and life-sustaining, and it reflects a characteristic of God. All of that is true, even if you're an atheist who wants to remove the characteristic of God part, which that's half the problem. This is why atheists keep getting morality wrong, because they detach it from its objective origins. But fine, if you want to look at it strictly philosophically, it's something ultimately positive, supports and sustains life, and does not come into conflict with another good. For instance, life. Put that in your pocket for a second. So laughter is good. Laughing during a funeral mass is not good, because one good has come into conflict with another good. Therefore, the laughter is no longer good. Okay, go.
But aren't you always talking about how human beings are responding to a certain situation? The fact that you just said when things start to matter is when life starts. That's okay. I mean,
look, when does it start to matter what the traffic conditions are on the highway? When I get there. Because if I'm sitting here talking in front of a microphone, I can give a damn what the conditions are on the highway. It doesn't matter because I'm not applying myself to them, those conditions. So when does the vacuum of space start to matter? It doesn't. It doesn't start to matter because I can't apply myself to it. You know?
Exactly. So, now imagine we have an entire planet of life forms, but if you switch places with them so far as you can actually make sense of that claim, it would be the exact same as as swapping places with a rock. There's nothing there. They don't have any of those great feelings when they hear music or when they experience love or when they get their heart broken.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have anything. They don't have anything there. I think as soon as you take that part out, you couldn't look at that planet and go, that could be any worse or any better for anything there, because there's nothing there to care. It's literally just mindless matter. It looks impressive, but if there's no consciousness there, who cares? The minute you get conscious life,
would it be immoral to blow a hole in the moon to split it in half? If we like drilled to the center of the moon and loaded it with nukes and detonated them, would that be immoral?
Are you actually asking me that question?
Yeah, of course I am.
Because it would destroy life on planet Earth. So
okay, then
I don't need to answer that question.
If it could be done in a way that they could guarantee that these pieces of the moon would go out into space and not crash into the Earth, then would it be immoral?
That's not why it would be bad. It was the moon controls the tides.
Okay, then it would be immoral because it would affect it would affect the ebb and flow of life on Earth. Would it affect inanimate
matter? Would it affect?
It would affect the ebb and flow of life on Earth.
Yeah, okay, yeah, those poor rocks, right? That would be absolutely terrible for them. Those poor water molecules, they were being pulled this way and then that way. They were part of a tide.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing. You're right. It's probably immoral for that reason because it affects life on Earth, and that's my point. Is that suffering has nothing to do with it? Because the immoral act is done against the moon. Because what do
you mean affect?
The immoral act is done against a good, and the effect is another good. It's not immoral.
What do you mean by effect?
So the effect of blowing up the moon in this scenario would be it could endanger life on Earth.
Endanger, right? We're talking about
harm
states.
Life on Earth, whatever, however you want to put it. There.
Harm.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about. Even in a religious context, they don't religious people don't actually come out and say consciousness, but God really, really seems to care what we do with our lives, and it makes him sad that we don't live up to our potential, and our potential tracks very, very well with not being in excruciating pain, not losing all our dignity, and being in a situation where we can learn and better ourselves. These are all questions of human well-being and flourishing, and not just being doubled over in pain. This is my point. Anytime anyone makes a statement, better, worse, at all, to do with a human being, they are talking about the body, they're talking about consciousness, they're talking about a soul. If you have to go there, that's my point. It's almost impossible to say anything is getting better or worse, unless you're just going to start caring about, again, the rocks, which I couldn't give a damn about. But if rocks were conscious, then we would care about them. That's why we don't.
No, I don't see it. I don't see caring about the rocks because whether or not they're conscious. I just don't see it, because the good can be negated or affected, right, with subjects that are not conscious. The moon, for instance, right, could harm or negate the good of life on Earth, and so forth. You see what I'm saying? But
I mean, so could a blood clot. So could your teeth. I don't. Yes. Things out of our control can affect other conscious creatures, but you're talking about suffering. When every example you've given of the moon, at no point have you said the poor moon. No one cares about the moon. Not but its function maybe, because, and the fact that life wouldn't exist.
But it's not because of consciousness. I feel like even consciousness, sometimes the way it's used, is a little bit of a cop-out, because it removes agency from the good. You understand? Because someone unconscious is still, for instance, a person with human dignity. Before you go on, I just want to say this is already a half an hour long. In a second, I'm going to open up the phone lines. And this already sounds like material we're going to be coming up with again in a week. In a week, when we do the season finale of the Dialogue podcast proper, which will be a debate, a little bit more structured than this one, which will be a debate on euthanasia. So we're going to be doing that next week. Am I right?
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. I cannot wait.
So give me just a second, Cal. You better get your next argument ready, chump. I think you're going to need time to formulate it. And then maybe you go on the offensive against me if you want. You don't have to. We can still, bat this back and forth if you want. But I feel like I've been doing the offensive mostly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I've got some questions.
You don't see him, folks, but Cal right now is putting on his William Wallace war paint. If you would like to give us a call, first of all, I want to say welcome to I can't see the whole name on my Twitter Spaces channel. Cat2 Forever, Christian, father and husband. Thank you for joining us. Oh, he just left. Son of a gun. I shouldn't have called him out. It's so funny. I did. I must have spooked him. I have a very scary voice. It's funny. I can say 1,000,000,000 billion trillion times the show is going to be at the Dialogue podcast feed. The show is going to be at the Dialogue FM. The Dialogue FM. 1,000,000 billion trillion, and people still come here looking for it to my personal feed.
Every time.
Every time. Well, that's what I was banking on. That's why I did the spaces. If you would like to call the show and chime in with your thoughts, the number to do that is 888-546-4656. Again, 888-546-4656. It's on me. Give us a call. You're going to be in the queue. You like that one, Cal? In the queue.
Love it.
Cal's British and all. You're going to be on hold for just a minute because you might be in the middle of somebody's point, so we're not going to just stop everything and take your call. But while you're on hold, you'll be able to hear the show in your over the phone while you're on hold, and then it's going to go beep, 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 beep when we take your call in. Then I'll say hello and welcome. Quick little note, I do not have a call screener, so once I'm done with your call, I'm just hanging up on you. That's not to be rude. That's not to be rude. But I can't pass you over to a call screener who's going to say, you know what, thank you so much for calling. That was a great call. Thanks for that. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for your call. Call again next time.
Yeah, call the show again next time. I can't. So I'm going to take your call. We're going to talk for a minute or two, and then I'm going to give you, or Cal will give you, a closing thought, and I'm going to say thank you very much for your call, and I'm just going to hang up on you. It is not to be rude. It's just so that we can get to the next thing. Right, and I have nobody to pass you over to who can let you go more politely and gently. So it's not to be rude. It's just, we just got to keep it moving, okay? So if it appears that I am hanging up on you, it's not to be rude. Please forgive me. 888-546-4656 if you'd like to be a part of the show. Okay, Cal, it's on you, Pally.
So here's a problem with basing your morality on religion. You might have a problem with this.
Okay.
But it seems to be that people's religious belief is very, very much contingent on geography. That's one thing that I've noticed. I can't help but notice that people born in a predominantly Catholic place will tend to be Catholic. People that are predominantly born in the Middle East will be, if they're in India, they will be Hindu. If they're in Iraq, they will be Muslim, so on and so forth. Predominantly, that does seem to be the case. So if you were born in Iraq or Afghanistan, what is moral would be what's dependent on whatever religious book you have access to and you were raised to.
No. I'm sorry, finish. No. Go ahead.
No, please.
No,
please,
because
I want to hear you get out of that one.
What's moral is moral, whether you know about it or not, whether people like it or not, whether people agree with it or not, whether you're aware of it or conscious of it or not. What's immoral is immoral. So in one religion, it might be, see, this is going on Facebook, so I have to be a little bit more careful, and people just going to have to,
too.
Yeah, people just going to have to pick up the hints. There are some religions that, where it's okay to beat your wife. Right? Isn't it still immoral? Of course it's still immoral. I know that you're not one of them, Cal, but there are atheists who say, well, if they all agree that it's moral, then it's moral for them, which is stupid. Okay, so... Go ahead.
Let's not bring in any other bad
enough.
secular arguments.
Fair
I mean,
enough.
I'm already dealing with Catholicism here. I've got enough on my plate.
You took my burn. I was about to say something very similar about you. Okay, go ahead.
I beat you.
You did. You're quicker than me.
Beat you to the punch.
Yeah.
So, okay, but if you were born in one of those countries, you would be of that religion,
right? Maybe. Okay, maybe.
Oh, come on.
So what? Okay, so maybe I would be Hindu or possibly even Muslim if I were born in India. I'd be either Hindu or Muslim.
And then you would be acting in a way that you'd be acting in a way fitting with that holy book and that culture and those traditions.
I don't know. I mean, probably. Okay, so I would be acting in accord. I would be acting in accord with the moral principles of that religion.
Yeah. So moral behavior, because you were criticizing me before about taking away agency from moral decisions by rooting it in consciousness. Yours is a dice roll. It's pure luck. All you do, you were born here. This holy book says it's okay to do blah, 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 blah. This one says blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. I'm just going to do that. That's what happens when you have an unchanging morality based on a book and tradition. It means that if you're born in it, you will very, very likely act that way.
Well,
that to me just seems like complete chaos.
Well, because what you're proposing... Did somebody just knock on my door? I don't know. I have headphones on, so I couldn't quite hear that. Did you hear a knock?
It sounded like someone knocked on my ceiling, to be perfectly honest. But it's okay. A ghost is getting involved in the action. He's going to blow up the lines.
It's the ghost of Edward Longshanks come to get revenge. So
yeah, he's coming back.
The thing is, again, morality is morality, whether we know about it or not. Okay, so morality is proper action in accord with reality and the natures of things. Okay, so like this pen has the folks can't see it, but that's okay. This pen has a nature. It's not natural, but it has a nature, right? Is it in accord with its nature to use it to, I don't know, hammer in a nail? I don't know, to stab somebody to death? You know, it's hard to say, is it immoral against the pen because it's a pen? But that's a violation of its nature, right? It brings harm to do so. Using a butter knife to screw in a screw, well, it works, but it's technically a violation or an assault on its nature. And because it's not made to do that, you might slip and, cut your hand, right? Or you get the idea. So morality is what is a label we put on simply this. It's acting in accord with the natures of things in line with reality. So whatever is immoral, for instance, when you look at well, let me back up. So what you need primarily for moral acts is an intellect, okay? An intellect that's reasonably well informed. For instance, the ancient pagans that used the examples in nature to formulate their moral code, which they were in the minority, but they existed. Okay, so primarily you need your intellect to understand reality, to understand the natures of things, even if you don't have that terminology, right? To understand reality and the natures of things. And so because reality is unchanging, morality is unchanging, because the natures of things are what they are. A dog is always a dog. And 1,000 years ago, a dog was always a dog. Because reality is what it is, and natures are what they are, morality is unchanging. From religion to religion to religion, whether or not they've got it nailed, morality is not changing. So if one religion says it's okay to beat your wife, or it's okay to take hostages as slaves, or it's okay to, mutilate your children, that's not moral, even if they say that it is. So is someone doing that? If someone in that religion is doing that, are they acting morally? No. But are they culpable for an immoral act? It depends on whether or not they can perceive that they're doing it immorally.
It sounds very much like you're saying that you don't need religion to be a good person.
But you do. And if you want me to go now and say why, or do you want to go first and say something else?
Well, I mean, it seems. Well, I mean, if you need religion to be a good person, I can't I can't see how you could actually logically make an argument against any crimes done from one religious group to another, because like you just said, you need religion to be good. So the vicious Hindus that are massacring Muslims in the Middle East right now, I think that's safe enough for Facebook.
Yeah, so.
They're religious. Well, they're religious, so they must be good, right? Or see, I think what you want to say, and you're hesitant to say it, and I don't know why you're hesitant to say it because you're a monotheist. What you mean is, you don't even mean Christian. You don't mean believer. You mean Catholic. If that's what you believe, say it.
Yes and no. So let me back up, because you make a lot of fair points there. Do you need religion to be good? Yes, but I'm saying good, capital G. But let me address your other point. Do I mean Catholic? Ultimately, no. I would say all Christians have a good chance at being equally good, except for the fact that here comes the capital G good thing. Mm-hmm. Let me take you back to the commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. In a lot of the ancient cultures, most of these things were not known to be wrong, like objectively morally wrong. Mm-hmm. But for most of those commandments, your mind can tell you, an adequately informed mind, adequately informed of reality, can tell you this is probably wrong. You know why we know that's true? Because even the cultures that didn't see those things as wrong still saw them as rude. You understand? Mm-hmm. So it's not wrong to kill your neighbor, but it can be rude to kill your neighbor for sleeping with your wife. It's not wrong, mm-hmm. but it's definitely rude. Okay, so they see that there is a moral value to it. They just have mm-hmm. the value wrong, okay? But there's one of the 10 commandments that stands out that defies reason. I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods before me. That one you can't get. You can't get to that by reason alone.
Well, that's true.
Hang on a second. Why does this say
That's
music?
true. I'm agreeing with you, but not in a way you'll like.
Okay, well, give me a second. Let me end this Twitter Spaces, because this is just a pain in my ass. And yes, I realize I said pain in my ass.
We're all adults here. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah. Let me just take a quick break from the action and just say hello and welcome to those of you catching us live. You have got the Dialogue Social Smackdown. And there aren't many people in the live in live anything right now. I think there's one or two people on YouTube, which, hey, I'll take one or two people, whatever. Mm-hmm. And thank you for joining us. If you're catching us on demand, you suck. You should have gotten here when it was live. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We're happy for any excuse me, audience we can get. Okay, back to the point. So that commandment stands out because that's not something you could get to by reason alone, right? I am the Lord your God. You shall, and I can make a moral argument for that, but that's beside the point. So there is a lowercase g and a capital G good when it comes to morality. Okay, first, it has to be objective. And I think most people can get there, right? It's harder for some people, like you believe in I don't agree with the objective measurement that you use, but you agree that morality is objective, right? Mm-hmm. And there's other atheists who do, and there are many atheists increasingly who don't believe morality is objective, that it comes by popular vote, which is just stupid. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there is some goodness you can arrive at. And in a second, I'm going to read to you some results of a poll. Not now. We can still go back and forth, but I'm going to read the results of a poll where I put this question to the folks. There is some goodness you can get to by reason alone, but then there's goodness that you can't get to without divine revelation. Why? Because God created reality. So morality, which is in union with reality, has to be rooted in God first, in the fundamental, the first principle. Okay, it has to be rooted in God first. And then there are some things that are moral that we can't arrive at by reason alone, right? And we rely on divine revelation to assist us in getting there. Capital G, good. I can prove I'm using that term loosely. I can prove my argument this way. Pick a single Catholic saint, a single one. I would dare you to find a non-Catholic Christian who has the same record for holiness, and I would further dare you to find an atheist or a Buddhist or a Muslim or anyone else who can match that record of any Catholic saint that you choose. I rest my case, Your Honor. You go.
Well, I don't see it. So going back to the religion thing. I've been doing a little bit of research for the season finale debate on euthanasia, and I've realized that there is an absolutely gigantic gap on the views within Christianity on the subject of euthanasia. You think euthanasia is an objective wrong, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Many Christians do not. You're reading from the same book, but the Church of England, for example, doesn't have a problem with it.
What are we calling? I know this is seeming wishy-washy. And there's a question from Master Blaster, who I think is one of your atheist compadres. I think he's also an atheist.
Okay.
And don't let me forget. I want to get to him. He's put up a comment in the chat on YouTube. Thank you, Blaster Master. I wish I had an echo. Yeah, cheers, man. Wish I had an echo box here because that would sound great with an echo. Master Blaster. Anyway, so give me a scenario. Give me a scenario, and where we have to, where you're asking me, is this wrong? So, for instance, if someone is dying, right, and if you, let's say someone is dying of cancer, God forbid, okay, and they say, well, I just don't want to live through this suffering anymore, and I'm pursuing medically assisted suicide.
One of those cancers where it's like 15% live another 5 years type thing.
Yeah, kind of thing. So is that a scenario where you think it could be moral? Because the thing is, people say euthanasia, sometimes the definitions get a little loose. That's why I'm trying to nail it down.
Well, okay, you're right. Thanks for pulling me up on it.
Yeah, man.
What I mean by euthanasia is a doctor applying medication to a sick person with their consent, that will kill them. That's
euthanasia.
That's one type of euthanasia.
Okay.
That's one type. That's the type that the Catholic Church, as far as I can see, could not possibly justify in any situation, because all life is sacred. It's this unchanging paradigm that's so toxic.
What's the unchanging paradigm? That all life is sacred?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Well. I mean, you've said 15 or 20 times during this debate that suffering doesn't come into it when we're talking about morality.
Suffering is not.
Or right and wrong. Yeah. Exactly. So that old man there, if he lives another 5 years in pain, what does it matter? Pain doesn't come into it.
Well, I'm not quite sure I'm understanding you. So it's immoral because people don't have power over life and death. Or we don't have authority over life and death. Okay.
Well, that's your side, but I strongly disagree with that.
Okay, and you're strongly wrong, because now, and again, I don't want to get too far into the woods here, because this is going to be the next show. You understand?
It's also relevant to what we're talking about.
It's relevant to what we're talking about. So, is it immoral? Yes. Well, what about the other Christians who don't think that it's immoral, and they're going from the same book? Cal, there are Christians who will read the scriptures. I follow some of them on Twitter. X. There are Christians who read the scriptures and see the most outrageous things in there that simply don't exist. It doesn't matter how they interpret the scripture if they're interpreting it wrongly or incorrectly. So, well, yeah, 50 Christians look at the same book and they come up with 50 different examples. Well, 49 of them are wrong.
Yeah, so this whole religion thing. I mean, it really just seemed to be shrinking under hammer blows from secularism and science, and now it seems to be doing the exact same thing when it comes to the subject of morality. It's not even an objective basis for reality, because where you're born. Where you're born is a roll of a dice.
It has nothing to do with reality. Where you're born has nothing to do with, well, I was born in Afghanistan, so I'm a Muslim, therefore my morality is different. No, because your reality is the same. So morality is the same, even if you're not aware of it. The book that you're
reading from is different. The book that you're reading from is different.
But you don't...
Culture has an effect on people.
Culture does have an effect on people.
Massively.
That's true.
And it affects how we act.
That's true. And that means it can affect people to the degree of their acting wrongly, not in accord with reality, not in accord with morality. And if we're saying, well, that's because of the culture, that's because of their interpretation, it doesn't matter why it's because. The point is, morality is still objective. And if everyone in Afghanistan is acting immorally and they're not aware of it, well, it's still immoral, even if they're not aware of it. Even if, as far as they're concerned, they are acting with morality, they're acting morally. If it's not in accord with reality, it makes no difference what they think about it. I mean, surely
Let's move on to that question.
What's that?
Let's move on to that question.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I was
that's
just
probably a good idea because you and I are the same way. We can just grab a hold. So let me get to this poll real quick, Cal, just to slow down the action a bit. First, let me remind myself, if you'd like to... Why the hell is YouTube doing that? Hang on a second. I'm not seeing our phone number on the YouTube feed for some outlandish reason. There it is. Okay. I was getting an old feed. If you'd like to call the show, be a part of the show, 888-546-4656. If you're looking at a screen and not just listening to us, you're going to see the number there in the corner, 888-546-4656. Give us a call with your questions. Don't be scared. We're really very genteel and kind. So I ran a poll this morning, and if you'll just give me a second, I just wanted to read some of the thoughts from it, and maybe we can chit-chat a little bit about it if you found something interesting, okay?
There was a very handsome Scottish man with a beard.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right.
Now.
I forgot. Yeah. I'm over here telling you about it, and I forgot that you actually dropped a response to it. Okay, let's see. Poll. Important question. Okay, so the poll went a little something like this. By the way, if you're not following me on X, you're missing out on a whole lot of fun. At For the Queen BVM on X. Cal, plug your social.
At Real Cal Kane.
Come and check us out. We're a whole lot of fun.
We are.
You can tell by just by how we're talking to each other. All right, so the poll I ran went a little something like this. Important question ahead of today's live debate. Can a person, an atheist, a secularist, whatever, can a person be good? You'll note I put a capital G good there, Cal. Can a person be good without God or religion? Please comment the reason for your vote. Hang on a second. Do I have some snappy music I can play for this? Let me see. Hello, snappy music. No. Oh, that's a good one. Let's go with that one.
Oh, yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's it right there.
Yep. Okay, I'll have to make a note of that track. Okay, the possible answers were yes, somewhat, and not really. Can atheists or secularists, whatever, be good without God? Yes, somewhat, or not really. The winner of the poll was 43.4%. Yes, people can be good without God or religion. That actually surprised me. At 18.9%, let's call it 19, was somewhat. Atheists and secularists can be somewhat good without God or religion. And then 37.7, that's actually a very high number, said not really. Atheists can't really be good without God. I don't know if you were looking at it or not, Cal. Just a couple of interesting comments. One by Father Jason Piper. Sounds like a wrestler's name. Father Jason Piper.
It does.
Man is
Roddy Piper.
Exactly what I was thinking. Man is created good and can naturally do good. In his freedom, he can choose to live contrary to his nature, there's that word, and act in a way that is void of good. I thought that was very interesting, but it kind of, brings up another question for me. If we can be good without God, then why be religious? I have answers to that, but what I'm saying is
that's not for me to answer.
What he's saying, and I'm not saying what he's saying is wrong, but it begs the question. My response to him was, so how good is man when we're fallen? when we're outside of a state of grace and detached from God and from divine revelation? How good can we be? You know, and I said it's not a challenge. It's just, you know, is goodness fundamental and unchanging? You know, anyway, it just kind of it didn't throw a monkey wrench, but I agree with what he's saying, but it does add now a layer of complexity that I wish we could get some elaboration on. Then Openly Reasoned on Twitter on X said, people are good without God or religion literally every single day, all the time. It's pretty much a fact, isn't it? I thought that was a very good comment, and it actually made me go, yeah, that's true. But again, I kind of differentiate between lowercase good and uppercase good, and I also differentiate between a good that is solid and unchanging and a good that is, you know, there are people who believe life is sacred until it becomes inconvenient. Life in the womb, people are precious. Life in the womb is precious. It's your baby, your baby. Until it becomes inconvenient. Until it becomes inconvenient.
There is debating a Catholic, and he had to mention the life in the womb. Had to. They can't help themselves.
It's just an example. It's an example of how secularists are moral until morality becomes inconvenient. And that is a demonstration of an absence of the capital G good. Before you sharpen your teeth, Blaster Master on YouTube said, I would flip it on him. I guess he's talking to you about me. I would flip it on him. Are you saying you can't think of good reasons to be moral unless they are commanded or pronounced from a God? I am not saying that. I'm saying to act morally is to act in accord with truth and reality.
Right. Let me stop you there. But let me stop you there because we're gonna blast through it. You're making that claim based on divine revelation, which comes from God.
Not really. That's a reason. That's a 100%. Reasoned. That is a reasoned claim. That's a reasoned claim. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the substance of that claim comes from Aristotle and Plato. Because
I don't know if I deserve to be mentioned in the same sentence as those guys, but I'll take it.
Well, the reason I say that is because I know Augustine spoke a lot on it, and Aquinas spoke a lot on it, and each of them built on the classical or the ancient thinkers. So, you know, the point is Plato didn't have divine revelation, so that's a reasoned claim.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I love that. I do love that question. I really do love that question. And again, there's a hesitancy from the theist digitally sitting across from me, and I don't know where this hesitancy comes from. Things are good because God says they are good. So just by using some very basic logic, all good things come from God. And when you step away from God, that's when the badness starts.
Well, when you step away from God, you step away from the foundation of reality and the foundation of truth, because God is truth itself, and you step away from the foundation of morality, right? And then once you have uprooted your morality, it can become anything. And we have seen that. So, my goodness, I've been debating and discoursing with atheists 30 years, maybe 35 years, and I have seen it in action. Like, I've been debating atheists as long as you've been alive, literally, okay?
Yeah.
And I have seen it in action. I have debated and argued and discoursed, you know, in friendly ways about morality, and I have seen their morality go from very foundational and conservative, but a little bit flippy floppy, just a little bit loose and dingy. And then I've seen it go way to the left gradually over time to the extent that now they're saying, and atheists on our X channel have said this, that if a people believe that killing a toddler is moral, then it's moral for them. And the cowardice that really pisses me off about that is, as much as we push them into a corner, so are you saying it's moral? Are you saying it's moral? Well, it's moral for them. They won't even take a stand on it. Okay, fine. I'm not here to, you know, go the torches and pitchforks route. All I'm saying is that claim, when I started discoursing and debating atheists, that would have been unheard of. And now it's becoming normative, because I first heard that kind of reasoning, Cal, maybe, I don't know, a few years ago. And at that time, they were like the quote unquote Protestants of the atheist world. I'd never heard of something so stupid in my life. But now I'm hearing it a lot. It's becoming normative, you know?
Yeah, I mean, let's call it moral relativism.
It is. It is moral relativism. Exactly right. Because when morality is detached from its root, it can become whatever it wants or whatever is convenient for it to become.
Yeah, I need to say a little thing about moral relativism. I didn't want to talk too much about the atheist community because 99% of them I can't stand. But I do have to say something about moral relativism without going too deep. It's actually it's self-defeating. As soon as a moral relativist criticizes someone else's behavior for them not agreeing that everything should be relative. So you can't criticize them. You can't criticize that culture for doing this country for doing that person for doing that. When you say can't, you've created a moral foundation.
That's a moral claim.
That's a moral claim. So so moral relativism is completely analogous, the exact same as moral cowardice. You need to be brave to be moral, because as soon as you say even something as innocuous as education, I think education is good. Okay, so anyone that disagrees with that is now further down the moral pyramid. If you want to shape it if you want to do it in a pyramid, they are less. They have changed. So anytime you say anything about morality, you'll find some culture that you're just going to really piss off immediately. So it takes, sorry to be slightly vulgar, it takes balls, it takes grit to be moral, and balls and grit is not something that's really present on the left these days. So it's absolutely no surprise to me that there's a lot of moral relativists, moral cowards out there. Had to get that out of my head blows off the top of my shoulders.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It really does take courage to be moral, to be truly moral. And then the more moral you grow to be, because morality is kind of a hill that you climb. You know, it's easy to be nice to the people that you like. It's hard to be good to the people you don't like. Okay, so that's a higher climb.
That's where the challenge comes from.
Yeah, that's a higher climb, you see. And it takes guts and it takes selflessness, you know, and I don't master it, especially the being kind to others.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it. I'm not terrible, but you know, I need some work. I will say that.
But it's an uphill climb, but you never reach the summit.
Yes, correct. It's impossible to reach the summit and I know we'll disagree on this, but it's a question I'll throw at you. To be perfectly moral, you have to be Jesus or the Blessed Mother. So that's an uphill climb you never get to the top of. What do you think, Cal, is like the moral standard to hit? Like I want to be like this, or I want to be like this person, or what's the peak? You know, without God and saints and divine revelation, what would be the peak for someone like you, or maybe just you personally?
Yeah, well, I think there can be multiple peaks. I think there can be cultures that do things differently from other cultures, but they can be equally good in different ways. They can run their societies. They can eat. They can eat different. They can eat different food. They can treat their children in a different way. They can have. They can put more money into their social programs. They can blah, 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 so on and so forth. So I think there's multiple peaks. And even at an individual level, there's some people, some very, very devoutly religious people that have been on silent retreat, like monks, and basically just soaking up the all the godly vibes, and they've just been in silent retreat for like 30 years. I don't doubt that they're happy at all. I don't doubt that they're happy at all. My view on happiness. I mean, I think there's a couple of common ones, because we are social creatures that give birth to little versions that we have to then protect. So I think family is kind of ubiquitous. I think that's something that everyone really, whether they know it or not, it does actually lead to your happiness. But happiness can be your relationships, it can be your music, it can be the food you eat, it can be, some people like boxing, some people like golf. It Depends, and it's all and it's but and a thing not to do is treat other people really badly, which is pretty common sense, really. I mean, is it? Well, I mean, it's it's common sense. It's common sense at the baseline, but when it goes higher up, some of the like exactly how to deal with the problem of collateral damage, for example, as if you from a moral perspective, is very, very difficult. Exactly how many good people you sacrifice to get the one bad guy that's got his finger on the red button and he's gonna nuke Los Angeles or something. Like how many children can you shoot through with a sniper rifle to do that? Those are very, very difficult questions. But as a baseline, just be a good person. Don't upset people. And if you upset them, they'll tell you. But and again, social creatures. Empathy is a thing that's built into us.
Empathy. You went there. Empathy is part of how we measure reality. It's not really a guide. Oops. Hang on a second. Sorry. It's not really a guide to reality, but sympathy and understanding, because I don't really like using the word empathy either. So just forget I said that. So strike it from the record. Yeah, sympathy and understanding. Maybe I can get with. But there are people
because you and me are made of the same stuff,
right?
So if you don't have enough to eat, that's probably going to have the same effect as me not having enough to eat.
Yeah, understanding the suffering of others is important. But you know what? Even if I don't know what it's like to be hungry, I should still recognize that there is a negation of a good in someone being hungry, and I have the power to change that by making them not hungry. You know, and that's still good even without empathy. And it's still, it's still good even if they don't realize they're suffering from being hungry. I can tell you this firsthand, okay? Because when I was young, being hungry was normal. That was normal. You finished dinner and you were still hungry, or you didn't quite have enough to. I did not grow up well off. So if you were to ask me if I was suffering, my answer would be no. But I was hungry. But to me, that was normal. I didn't even know I was poor until somebody told me that, and even then, I disagreed with them.
Yeah, that's moral progress for me. Basically, you can be miserable in ways that you don't understand, and you can flourish in ways that you're not even aware of yet. What we know about our minds and our bodies now, I can't even imagine what we're going to know in 100 years' time. We're going to look back to conversations like this and think, "Wow, we actually thought that was peak, or we thought we were approaching optimal."
Yeah.
That's what moral progress is. Again, it goes back to this unchanging sense that anything that's unchanging, an unchanging morality. So that means that what is good now will still be good in 1,000 years. It will still be good in 1,000 years' time, regardless of any knowledge that we've accrued in that time.
No,
that seems to be an argument for making religion seem as bad as people want it to be.
See, but morality doesn't change, but our ability to understand it and to live up to it can develop. Okay. So, electroshock therapy. Okay.
Yes, that's a good one.
Is immoral.
Yes.
Because it's first because it doesn't work. I mean, I wonder if it worked, right? Like if it definitely worked, would it then be moral, right? I don't know.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, maybe we should. If only we had time for an after show, but this show is already running too long. So our understanding of reality can develop, right? It can get better. We're seeing it in society now where it can get worse. Right. So it's not the reality. It's not the morality that changes, really. It's our ability to live up to the demands of truth and reality. So you understand? The truth itself is unchanging, but our excavation of truth, right? Because truth isn't built. It's excavated. It's revealed. It's discovered. It's understood. Our excavation, our discovery of truth is evolving better and better and better, hopefully. Hopefully it's better. But
in some ways,
the truth, the truth, the reality, the morality, those things do not change. let me just give me a second. So Blaster, I'm always going to mess it up. Blaster Master, moral relativism is awful. This is Blaster Master on YouTube, by the way. Moral relativism is awful, but I bet you fall into when the subject of slavery in the Bible comes up. Oh, well, it was the culture at the time. I'm not even going to touch that one. So anyway. No.
Oh, he hit the nail on the head. Oh, bravo. You couldn't have done it better. It was different. They were fine with it. Being a slave was better than being anything else. Yada, yada, yada. Good Christian morals. Good Christian morals.
Blaster Master, you should change your name to Mr. Big Mouth. No, I'm just he is a bit of a big mouth, though, but I like that about him. That's not a criticism.
Look who you're talking to.
Yeah. I like that about him. So here's what we're going to do, Blaster Master, and for anyone else who's thinking, you know what, I would like an answer to that question. That's fair. I got to tell you, as soon as the word slavery left my mouth about a half an hour ago in front of the microphone, I says, uh-oh. Someone's going to bring that one up. So what I'm going to do is maybe I'll do a separate show by myself or like an added show next week with Cal if Cal wants to be part of that. Because I
feel like we might have had this conversation recently about slavery.
We did personally, me and you, over the phone.
Oh, was that? We weren't even recording that,
no,
right?
We weren't recording
Interesting.
That. So, right. But I'll just so that I'm not stringing people along. I'll touch upon it a little bit. So, why is there slavery in the Bible? Okay. So, in biblical times, really up until very recently in human history, slavery was just normal. It was a normal part of the global economy. Okay, that's number one. So, was it still immoral? Yes, but were they doing it to be immoral? You'll have to ask them. But they were not aware. They did not see it as immoral. But wasn't it still immoral? Yes, it was. Okay, then why did God allow it? Okay, let me touch upon that. Slavery in the time of the gospel, for instance, okay, slavery was almost non-existent in Israel because of the way God treats it in the Old Testament, okay? So slavery in the Old Testament was like oil in Western civilization or really throughout the globe, okay? Where if you were to just turn that off, humanity might go extinct. I don't know. But it would so impact everything pertaining to the economy, okay? Food delivery, farming, and so on and so on, getting around. It would just affect everything. You couldn't just turn that off. So slavery in the Old Testament, in the ancient times, it was just like that. Not only was it was part of the working force. It was literally part of the working force. Slavery was different in Greece, Egypt, Rome, and so on, various empires. Slavery was a little bit different.
It still is now.
Well, yes, true. But slavery in Israel was basically, and actually in many cultures, not just Israel, slavery was not just part of the work culture. It was also part of, I guess, the welfare system. So if you had a child you couldn't afford to care for, you would sell that child into slavery. Oh, my God, how terrible. Okay, but what were they doing? They were selling a child into slavery to a family that could actually support them. The child would learn a trade, right? The child was free to live that person's life. They couldn't leave. They couldn't they weren't like chained to the walls or anything, but that was where you lived and where you worked, right? So you couldn't just say, I'm done and leave. Okay. They were taught a trade. They were given a place to live. It wasn't a ratty place to live. Oftentimes they lived in the same house as their master. Otherwise, they lived in a smaller house off to the side, but they weren't living in a shack. They were free to get married. They were free to have children, and so on and so on and so on. Slavery in the Bible in Israel was, because of God, was very, 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 very different. If the family wanted to buy back their child from slavery, they could do that. Slavery was also temporary. It was like indentured servitude. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. At the end of a term, the slave got a cash bonus and usually was given land as part of the bonus. Okay? So why does God then seem to endorse slavery? First of all, he changed it. He changed the playing field because he elevated the dignity, or he didn't elevate the dignity of slaves. Slaves already had dignity. But he elevated it in the mind of man, that these are still human beings, right? So he elevated the dignity in the mind of man, and he directed treatment of slaves to be so civil, right, that by the time Jesus hits the scene, slavery was almost not even existent in Israel. Okay? So he set conditions that caused slavery to end organically. And until it ended organically, he set conditions where slaves were treated better and better and better and better and better. And I know what Cal's going to say, but they were still slaves, because we've had this conversation. Yes,
we've had this conversation
they were still slaves. Yes, they were still slaves. They were indentured servants. And the way that slaves were treated in biblical times is not the way that slaves were treated in like American slavery or European slavery, where the American European slaves were the way they were treated was like garbage compared to how the slaves in Israel were treated.
So let me ask you a question then. So slavery is endorsed in the Bible, right?
No, I wouldn't use the word endorsed. I wouldn't use.
What word would you like to use?
It's modified.
Isn't there a verse about how you can beat them as long as they don't die under your hand?
Probably. I think there is. Yeah.
So, okay, and now many cultures that used to practice slavery do not.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so the Bible, and by extension God, doesn't offer it. Very big on graven images. Very big on graven images. You
don't even know what graven images means, Cal. Don't. Go ahead, but you're about to put your foot in your mouth. But go ahead.
Okay, mixed fabrics then. Is that good enough?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand the reference.
Okay. Right. Okay. But somehow we managed to progress past slavery without the help of the creator deity of the universe. Does that not tell you?
Untrue.
Does that not tell you?
That's untrue. Does that not tell you what? Go ahead.
It's how thou shalt not keep slaves. Boom. There you go. I just did it. I did your deity's work for you. He couldn't figure out a way to do that. He had to go, let's trickle it out. I'm
going to tell you something, and this may make you cry. If it weren't for God addressing slavery in the Bible, you would probably still have slavery today. Do you know why? I'm going to tell you why. Because slaves were not considered dignified until God revealed them to be so. Okay? And let me tell you, there were people running from slavery everywhere else on the planet so that they could be slaves in Israel. Okay, that's how good slaves were treated there. That's number one. Wow. That's number one.
So
number two, slavery was practically extinct by the time Jesus came. There were very few of them. Okay, and let's move on forward from there. Where is slavery today? It's nowhere. Do you know when that started? When the Catholic Church said that slavery was evil. Okay, the Catholic Church, using the objective revelation of the Bible, which you are condemning, excuse me, using the objective revelation of the Bible, number one, and moral theology, number two, the church said that slavery was evil 100 years before France said it was. And France said it was evil, I think 75 years, no, couldn't have been that long, but a couple of generations before American slavery was brought to an end. And so you know where you have all that to thank? The Catholic Church. Based on what? Divine revelation. Foundationally where? From the Old Testament. You're welcome.
Where is it in the Old Testament that it says it would be better if you didn't keep slaves? I've read the Old Testament. I'm fairly sure there's not even a slight hint to not keeping slaves in there.
Blaster Master, I'm looking at the screen. It says message retracted. I wonder what he said. But his next message was not to be a big mouth more than I've already been, but that sure sounds like moral relativism to me. It was a part. It was a part of the culture and necessary. No, that's not moral relativism. It's just the way things are, and God affected a change in it. And excuse me, and I don't want to be interrupted as I say this, because this is really going to piss me off. I want to say again, okay, Cal, Blaster Master, and every other godless secularist out there, if it were left to you, you would still own slaves. Okay? The only reason you have a moral high ground to stand on to say, oh, the Bible condemns slavery, the only reason you even know that that's wicked is because of the Bible. It's because of divine revelation. It's because of the teaching of the church. That's the only reason why. That's the only. Excuse me. That's the only reason why you know that it's wicked today.
Show me the divine revelation, please. Please, simple question. Show me the divine revelation.
The divine revelation is the scripture and the teaching of the church. Really, it's the scriptures primarily.
You're going to have to do...
No, Cal. Bullshit. Yes, I'm calling it. That's bullshit. Because yes, you do. You know damn well that slavery was a thing and it was happening until the church said this is awful and it needs to change. And frankly, the church had outlawed slavery long before there was even a document written.
So if someone came to me and said, hey, what's the view on homosexuality in the Bible? And I said, the Bible, divine revelation, and didn't actually quote the actual part, which is the question I've asked you 3 times and you've still been unable to do.
Right, because Cal, I can't go through a bunch of Old Testament texts and give you a lesson in theology. I'm sorry. And damn it, you know that just as well as Blaster Master. You know that just as well as, you know that just as well as Blaster Master. But the problem is this is an evil, stupid little trick that you and every other atheist on the planet has up their sleeve. I have an idea. Let's ask the theist for a theology lesson. Bullshit.
Nope. No, it's not. It's not. It's not at all. If you want to talk about,
it's a tactic.
If you want to talk about the graven image, no, it isn't.
It's a tactic.
Excuse me,
Let's ask for a theology lesson, which I know no one can just give a theology lesson on the drop. So then then he's not going to be able to answer the question.
Yeah. And the theology lesson and all the stuff that was figured out post-Bible, post-Christianity was done by human beings figuring this stuff out extra biblically without the guidance of the Bible.
No. Who's figuring what out? Who's figuring what out extra biblically?
What do you think? What do you think theology is?
Theology is the study of divine things
by
theologians. I don't know by
human
whom?
Beings.
Human beings.
Human beings. Yeah, exactly. But so the graven images part, the don't murder, that's fine. That's all there. That's not a problem. Slavery. Oh, I don't have the time to explain that. That's a theology lesson. Nonsense.
It's not nonsense, Cal.
We figured it out. We figured it out because we outgrew the Bible.
No, you didn't.
We outgrew the Bible.
No, that's a foolish statement.
Yes,
that's
we did.
a foolish statement.
We did.
And let me address what you're saying. Okay, where slavery is covered in the Bible and the history of Israel, going from let's say Numbers to the Gospels, is like thousands of years. Okay, so the theology involves the text of the scripts, the culture of the time, okay, because, for instance, when you say, you go back 4,000 years in Israel and you say slavery, that means a very different thing from what it means today if you say it to a Westerner, okay? So first you need a history lesson, okay? You need the history of the people. You need to understand the culture of Israel. You need to understand the culture of the region, so other cultures they were surrounded by, so that you have context. And then you have to understand what is God talking about when he says X and Y and Z, and so on and so on. And then you need to discuss things like human dignity and so on and so forth. Okay, so
it's a wonder you have any hair left from all those split hairs, those hairs that you split.
It's a miracle. I joined the hair club for men, and you can too.
It's absolutely incredible.
I'm not finished yet. Excuse me. So I was talking for 5 or 10 minutes trying to address the fundamentals of the question, and those are just barely the fundamentals. And it took me like 10 minutes to cover that. Okay, you know how long a show like that is going to take me if I really wanted to give a theology lesson on this whole thing, and whether or not it changes anybody's mind, it doesn't make a difference to me. But to actually cover it, that's easily like 2 hours. That's easily a 2-hour show.
It takes 2 hours to make a case.
Because you need a history lesson, you need a lesson in metaphysics and philosophy, and then you need.
No, I don't have one of these. I have one. I have one of these.
Cal. I do. Cal, what's a graven image? Tell me what a graven image is, and make it quick. You don't know, do you? And that's one word, Cal. That's one term. And you don't know what it is. So how the hell are you going to understand slavery from having read the Old Testament like a storybook?
Because slavery existed before, during, and after. Christians don't own slavery. What are you talking about?
Okay. You're avoiding the question, and that's fine. I can't blame you, because if I was in the corner as you are, I would be avoiding the question too. But when did
I'll do in 2 seconds what it takes you 2 hours to do.
Go.
Owning another person under any circumstances is wrong. There you go. Done. Doesn't take 2 hours. It takes 2 seconds.
How do you know that? I want to know the moral foundation you root that in. Go.
The moral foundation for taking someone's agency away and owning them like farm and treating them like farm.
How do you know
equipment.
that's wrong?
I'm not even going to dignify that with an answer.
Then you don't, because you don't have an answer.
No soul. You
don't have an answer. The only
ridiculous.
reason you know that's wrong is because the church has said it's wrong, and the church says it's wrong because of human dignity and so on and so on and so on. That being wrong is part of the culture of the West. Why? Because of the Holy Catholic Church, which banned it.
I care about my fellow human beings.
You don't know what you're talking about, because the church banned and outlawed that long before anybody else in the West did, and everybody else in the West got rid of it. And everybody else in the West got rid of it because the church banned and outlawed it. And so it became part of the culture. It became part of the cultural understanding, human dignity and owning slaves, and this and that and that and that and the other thing. The only reason you're able to make that claim is because you're standing on the shoulders of giants as you unzip and pee on their heads.
Yeah, I've heard that one before. Yeah, if it wasn't for someone telling me that it's unpleasant to be killed, I just wouldn't know. Okay.
Yeah, being killed is something different.
The sensation of pain. Yeah, there's I need a Catholic to come along and tell me why that's worth avoiding. What are you talking about?
Well, pain is...
Christianity isn't telling me anything.
Look, pain is, for instance, a light being on or off is very easy to discern. A difference in color temperature from one light bulb to another is very subtle and harder to discern. There are some truths that are harder to discern. And we know that because slavery existed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before God finally said, we got to do something about that.
It was good of him to wait that long while they all suffered.
Wait a second. So if that one is such a no-brainer, why did it exist for 10,000 years and nobody figured it out?
Moral progress.
Bullshit. And that is now the fourth time I'm saying that.
What do you mean?
Cal,
you don't believe in moral progress?
For thousands of years.
You don't believe in moral progress?
Excuse me. For thousands of years, nobody thought that was wrong until God came along and said, we need to do something about that, and changed the entire paradigm. Saying, okay, in order to survive, you need to participate in this economy, but you're going to do it in a very, very different way from this point forward. God changed. Full men create economies. Moving on. The paradigm he set is why there is no slavery today. That's all I'm saying. And the only reason you're able to say owning a person is awful and evil, the only reason you're able to say that is because the church set that foundation based on divine revelation. So give me a break.
Sitting here as an atheist who doesn't listen to anything that any religious leaders say. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But you do. It's in the culture, Cal. That's my point.
Wherever you need to. What's in the culture? Sorry.
I think we need to move on. This is good. I can answer that question, but then I think we did. So
let's move on.
Certain things are in the cultural mind. Certain things are in the cultural mind, in the cultural understanding, even if they're revolutionary at first. Like, I mean, the uproar when the church outlawed slavery. It's historical. I mean, there was a significant uproar against the church when the church outlawed slavery. But now that's like a thing. Everybody knows that, right? Okay, that's the answer. Cal, did we go a little too hard on this?
No, not hard enough.
So the folks may not realize this, but Cal and I really are friends. And after this is over, we are still going to be friends. Cal, you're smiling, but you're not saying anything.
I say that through grimaced teeth. Man, you piss me off so many ways. I love you, but good God.
I'm just throwing fuel on the fire, bro.
I mean, if saying the same bullshit repeatedly in an ever increasingly loud voice won the debate, then you've not made it in the first round, I guess.
This is not a debate that there is a winner. I don't think. I don't think this.
Well, no.
I don't think we really came here to win the argument, because I know there's no changing your mind.
You can't win against theists anyway. So because they go, it's just a matter of faith.
No, when did I ever say in this conversation it's just a matter of faith?
If it went long enough, ultimately you would say God is either divine or he works in mysterious ways.
Did I? It's been an hour and a half. Did I say that any of those things even once? Yes,
You've done very good.
Did I say any of those things even once?
You've done very, very good at not. If it goes long enough, a religious person will also go, well, if that doesn't make sense, God's mysterious.
Cal, we've been doing this for years, and I have never once said, well, that's just faith. Well, God works in mysterious ways. I have never once said that to you. Blaster Master said, how do I know that slavery violates personal autonomy? By the definition of the word autonomy. Blaster Master, how do you know that autonomy even has value? Because you know what that is, my friend? You know what you're talking about? Human dignity. I think it's time to get out of here. You want to take a last word?
No. I'm good. We have both said well enough.
You think I should take out that last half hour?
No, I don't. I think we should. I think we should keep it in there. Now we know what you're about.
And on that note, whoops, wrong one. I'm always doing the wrong song. Yes, Blaster Master, whatever you are. This has been the Dialogue Social Smackdown. Who is a smoker? I've been the Catholic Adventurer.
And I've been Cal Caden. Pleasure. See you next time.
Well, Cal really I can't see him because there's a screen covering the camera feed, so I can't see it. But he sounds like he's really seething. It's a good thing we're not in the same.
I'm good.
If we were in the same room, Cal, I think you'd be taking an axe to my head right now.
As is the Scottish tradition.
Yeah, exactly. Blaster Master says, thank you for engaging with me. That was fun. You're very welcome. Blaster Masters, thank you so much for joining us, because I was really hoping you would stop by, because you seem so enthusiastic and passionate about what you think. And I thought, man, that'd be great if he drops in. And I'm glad that you did. And I'm glad that I saw, just by chance, I saw that he was interacting. So I'm glad I picked that up. If there's a God in the sky, may he be with you all. See ya.
See ya.
And we'll see you in 1 week. We're going to skip the next week. We'll see you in 1 week with the series finale. The season finale of season 1 of the Dialogue, with a debate on euthanasia. Take it easy.